They were going to marry my daughter, sell my life's work, and split the money while she still wore her wedding dress. And the woman helping him do it was the same godmother who once promised to protect Lily with her life. Welcome to Brian's Stories. I share new life stories here every day, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Drop a comment down below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. I read every single comment, and it helps me to know I'm not alone in this. My name is Jonathan Edward Caldwell. I'm 68 years old, though most days the mirror shows me a man who looks older. Sunset Orchard has been in my family since 1897. 140 acres of Georgia soil that my great-grandfather cleared with his own hands. The house is old white brick, wide porches, green shutters faded soft by time. Inside, every room still smells faintly of my Sarah's lavender soap, even though she has been gone 16 years this November. She died in the front bedroom while the autumn leaves burned red outside the window. I held her hand until it went cold, and I have been holding it in my heart ever since. We had only one child, Lily Grace. She came late, when the doctors said it was impossible. Sarah used to say Lily was proof that God still answers stubborn prayers. Lily has her mother's smile and my stubbornness. She grew up barefoot between these rows, hair wild with peach juice in summer, cheeks red from cold in winter. I taught her how to graft trees, how to read the sky for frost, how to listen to the land the way sailors listen to the sea. I thought I had taught her everything she needed to protect herself. I was wrong. After Sarah passed, Sophia Reynolds stepped in like an angel wearing pearls. She was Sarah's college roommate, brilliant lawyer, never married, no children of her own. She became Lily's godmother the day we baptized her in the little white church down the road. Sophia was at every birthday, every graduation, every heartbreak. When I was too tired to explain life to a teenage girl, Sophia did it for me. She paid for Lily's college when the orchard had a bad year. She was the sister I never had and the second mother Lily needed. I gave her power of attorney over the farm accounts. I let her keep the spare key under the flower pot. I called her family. 2 nights ago, I overheard them in the study. Alex, the fiancé. The old man will sign anything Sophia recommends. Weddings in 6 weeks. Once the papers are filed, the resort group takes the land by spring. 50-50 split, same as we agreed. Sophia, voice cool as creek water. Don't call my goddaughter a fool again. She trusts me. That makes this easy. Alex, your gambling debts vanish. I get mine. Everybody wins. Sophia, almost tender. Except Jonathan and Lily. My pocket phone, meant for recording bird calls, had caught every word. Pure accident or pure grace, I don't know. Next morning, Alex slid a thick folder beside Lily's breakfast plate. Just routine prenup stuff, sweetheart. Sophia already approved it. Lily looked to me. I smiled like a man with a mouthful of broken glass and said, "If Sophia says it's fine, it's fine." I'd photographed every page at 3 a.m. and mailed the copies to an old army buddy who finds truth for a living. The very next evening we sat down for Sunday supper, the way we always have. Lily sat at my right, glowing in a pale yellow dress, hair twisted up with a few loose curls around her face. Alex sat beside her, one arm draped across the back of her chair like he already owned the place. Across from them was Sophia, pearls perfect, wine glass catching the candlelight like a ruby. I sat at the head of the table, carving the chicken, trying to keep my hands from shaking. Lily was telling a story about the florist mixing up the peonies and roses for the wedding. She laughed the way she did when she was little, head thrown back, eyes shining. Alex laughed with her, but his laugh never reached his eyes. Sophia listened with that fond, indulgent smile she had worn since Lily's first steps. I passed the mashed potatoes to Sophia. Our fingers brushed. She said, "Thank you, Jonathan," soft as always. I nodded. I was watching. Then it happened. Alex reached for the salt at the exact moment Sophia lifted her water glass. Their eyes met across the table for less than a heartbeat. It was so quick most people would have missed it. A flash. A spark. A silent message passed between them like electricity jumping a wire. His mouth curved, almost nothing. Her eyebrow lifted, barely. Then both faces smoothed back into perfect, polite smiles, as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. My stomach turned cold as winter rain. I know what I saw. I've seen that look before, long ago when Sarah and I were young and planning surprises for each other. It was the look of two people sharing a secret too delicious to speak aloud. Lily kept talking, unaware. "Papa, do you remember when Mama used to hide my birthday presents in the root cellar and pretend she forgot?" I forced a chuckle. "I remember. She was terrible at keeping secrets from you." I looked straight at Sophia when I said it. She met my gaze, calm, unblinking, and raised her glass in a tiny toast. Alex squeezed Lily's shoulder and said, "Your father is right. Some secrets are impossible to keep in this house." He smiled at me when he said it. A dare. The family I had prayed for after Sarah died. My daughter happy, my oldest friend beside us. The man who would soon be my son-in-law. But the picture had cracked, right down the middle, in the space of one shared glance. I laid the carving knife down very carefully. The blade caught the light and threw it back like a warning. Lily reached for my hand. "Papa, you're quiet tonight. Everything all right?" I covered her fingers with mine and smiled the best smile I could manage. "Everything is perfect, sweetheart. Just enjoying watching you shine." She beamed. Alex watched me over the rim of his glass. Sophia buttered a biscuit, serene as a Sunday sermon. I excused myself to fetch more tea from the kitchen. In the hallway, away from their eyes, I leaned against the wall and felt my heart pound like it wanted to break free. That glance, that tiny, terrible spark. It confirmed everything I heard on the recording, and it told me something worse. The peach cobbler sat untouched in front of me. Lily was still laughing about the way only innocent hearts laugh, and the candlelight danced across every face like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. That tiny spark I had seen between Alex and Sophia still burned behind my eyes. I set my fork down slowly. The clink of metal on china sounded too loud in my ears. I looked straight across the table at Alex. His arm was still around Lily's chair, fingers playing with a strand of her hair. He felt my stare and lifted his eyes to mine. They were bright, confident, almost amused. I spoke quietly, but every word carried. "Whoever breaks trust in this house will pay the highest price." The room went still. Lily blinked, confused, then smiled like I had told one of my old country jokes. "Papa, what brought that on?" Alex's smile did not move, but something cold slid across his face. "Strong words, sir." Sophia lifted her wine glass halfway to her lips, paused, then set it down again without drinking. Her eyes flicked to Alex, then to me, calm as a frozen pond. "Jonathan has always believed trust is sacred," she said, voice smooth as cream. "He is right." "It is." I held Alex's gaze. "I'm glad we all agree." Lily reached over and squeezed my hand. "Papa, you're scaring me. Is something wrong?" I turned my hand and closed my fingers around hers, warm, trusting, soft as when she was 5 years old. "Nothing is wrong yet, sweetheart. I'm only reminding everyone at this table what matters." Alex laughed, low and easy. "Message received, Mr. Caldwell, loud and clear," but his pupils had tightened. I saw it. A small animal warning. Lily tried to lighten the mood by offering cobbler, and everyone laughed except me. I was still watching Alex, and he was watching me too. After the plates were cleared and Lily walked Alex out to his car, Sophia lingered in the dining room doorway. She touched the door frame with a gentle, familiar touch and quietly said, "I seemed troubled tonight." I stood by the window, hands in my pockets, watching Alex kiss Lily good night. I replied that I was just an old man thinking about promises, about how some promises were forever and some people just forgot. She stepped closer. "We all want the same thing," she murmured. "We want Lily happy, safe, taken care of." I turned to face her. "Do we?" For the first time in all the years I had known her, Sophia looked away first. She smoothed her skirt and said, "Of course we do. Good night, Jonathan." She walked out, heels clicking across the hardwood like slow gunfire. I stayed at the window until Alex's taillights disappeared down the long driveway between the peach trees. Then I stood there longer, staring at the darkness where they left behind. I said those words as a toast, but inside my chest, they sounded like a vow. I already knew the two people at the table tonight were preparing to break my daughter's world, and I had just promised them that when they did, they would pay the highest price. The morning after I spoke those heavy words about trust, I woke with the taste of iron in my mouth. Sunrise painted the orchard pink and gold, the way it always does in late October, but the beauty felt like a lie today. I carried a thick manila folder into the breakfast room. Inside were the new pre-wedding documents Alex had emailed me the night before. Property disclosures, asset schedules, things that should have waited until after the ceremony. I told myself I was only being careful. Lily was already at the table in her robe, hair still damp from the shower, humming while she buttered toast. Sophia sat across from her, legs crossed, reading glasses low on her nose, looking every bit the trusted godmother. Alex stood behind Lily's chair, one hand resting on her shoulder like he belonged there forever. I set the folder beside Sophia's coffee cup. "Morning, Sophia. I printed the papers Alex sent. Would you mind looking them over for us? You know these things better than I ever will." Sophia smiled that warm, reassuring smile that had calmed me through every crisis after crisis. "Of course, Jonathan. Happy to help." She opened the folder, flipped through the pages slowly, red pen poised. Every now and then she nodded, made a tiny note in the margin. Lily watched her with the same worshipful eyes she had worn since childhood. Alex leaned down and kissed the top of Lily's head. "See, sweetheart? Nothing to worry about, just boring legal stuff." Sophia closed the folder and slid it back across the table. "Everything looks perfectly standard. A few small adjustments for Georgia law, but nothing dramatic. You can sign with complete confidence, Lily." Lily beamed. "Thank you, Aunt Sophie. I knew you would take care of us." Alex pulled a sleek black pen from his jacket pocket and placed it in front of Lily like he was offering a gift. "Great. Then let's get this done before breakfast gets cold. It's only a few signatures, babe. Separate property agreement. Totally routine." Lily reached for the pen without hesitation. My heart hammered. I placed my hand over hers before the pen touched the paper, asking her to stop so I could review the documents, exercising a father's prerogative. Alex's smile tightened as he tried to interrupt me, but I maintained a light tone and insisted on reading them myself. Lily gave a small laugh, reminding me that I hated legal paperwork, but I replied that I loved her more. Sophia's eyes darted toward me sharply, saying that my reading wasn't necessary because she had reviewed them. I met her gaze and replied that, in that case, she wouldn't mind if I reviewed them too. Alex cleared his throat, urging me to hurry because they were in a rush and needed to go to the notary before noon. Lily looked from Alex to me, confused, trying to reassure me with Aunt Sophia's word, but I heard a small tremor in her voice. I smiled at her and asked for 5 minutes. Alex's jaw tightened. He tried to mask it with a smile that was too bright and strained, saying I should take all the time I needed. I opened the folder. The pages looked innocent enough. Standard clauses. Clean type. My eyes skimmed, then stopped on page 7. A tiny footnote, almost hidden. A power of attorney clause buried inside what looked like a simple disclosure form. My blood turned to ice water. Alex leaned over Lily's shoulder, pointing at the signature lines. "Right here, babe, and here, and initial page 4. Quick and painless." Lily lifted the pen again. "Lily," I said quietly, Do not sign yet." Lily stood still. Alex squeezed her shoulder and said this was between Lily and him. I closed the file and asserted that this was between my daughter and everyone sitting at this table. Sophia put her coffee cup down and said I was overreacting. I looked straight at her as I repeated the question. Alex tried to laugh and suggested we could wait until tomorrow, saying it wasn't a big deal, but his eyes said otherwise. Lily looked at the closed file, then at Alex, then at me, saying she didn't understand because Aunt Sophia said everything was fine. Sophia reassured Lily that everything was fine and I was just being cautious. Alex quickly agreed, saying they could go to the notary tomorrow or this afternoon. He was pushing very hard. I stood up slowly, the file in my hand, and said we would take a few days. No need to rush. Alex's smile vanished. I told him that if these papers were minor, they could wait. Lily bit her lip and said I was scaring her. I leaned down and kissed her forehead, saying a little fear was healthy when someone wanted her name on something before she had read every word. I tucked the file under my arm and walked toward the door. Alex called after me urgently, saying Lily could sign this morning and it was just a formality. I stopped at the threshold, looking back at them. Lily confused, Sophia inscrutable, Alex nearly frantic. I smiled and said, "Formality or not, my daughter signs when I say she signs. And right now, Alex, I say not today." Then I walked out, the unsigned papers burning in my hand, and Alex's voice followed me down the hall, sharp with something that sounded a lot like panic. 3 days after the newspaper article turned my quiet life into a circus, I found myself standing in the co-op warehouse surrounded by men who had known me since I wore short pants, all of them talking at once while the smell of fertilizer and diesel hung thick in the air. Old Mr. Whitaker, who has farmed these red clay hills longer than I have been alive, finally raised his cracked voice above the rest and said, "Jonathan, if Sunset Orchard can be snatched up by some resort folks overnight, none of us are safe, and we need to know whether the rumors are true or whether somebody is just stirring the pot to drive land prices down." I told them the truth as gently as I could, that no one in my family had spoken to Coastal Lux Resorts, that the numbers printed in the paper were accurate down to the penny, and that the only way those numbers could have left my house was if someone I trusted carried them out in their pocket or their briefcase. The silence that followed was heavier than any harvest rain. That same afternoon, Lily came running from the mailbox, clutching a thick white envelope with no return address, tears already shining in her eyes, because the entire county seemed to believe her childhood home was already sold. She handed it to me with trembling fingers and whispered, "Papa, it is another copy of the same article, but this time someone highlighted every private detail in yellow, and there is a post-it note that says, 'Ask your godmother why the surveyors were here yesterday.'" I placed the envelope in front of her and said, "Calm as Sunday morning. Sophia, the survey flags are planted along my back fence. The harvest projections only you and I have seen are now on the front page, and someone very kindly suggests I ask you for an explanation." She looked at the envelope, then at me, and the expression on her face never changed except for the tiniest tightening at the corners of her mouth. "Jonathan," she answered in that smooth, "I am as shocked as you are, and I have already instructed my paralegal to demand a retraction while my cybersecurity firm traces the breach, because clearly someone has accessed privileged files." He stepped forward quickly and said, "Babe, your dad is upset and I get it, but we need to stay calm and let Sophia handle this, because panicking plays right into whoever is doing this." I looked at him then, really looked, and noticed the way his eyes flicked to Sophia for half a second, seeking instruction the way a junior associate seeks approval from the senior partner. That tiny glance told me more than any confession ever could. Lily, sweet, trusting Lily, reached for Sophia's hand and said, "Aunt Sophie, people are saying Papa wants to sell the orchard without telling me, and I know that is not true, but it hurts so much that strangers think they know our family better than we do." Sophia squeezed Lily's fingers and replied, soft and soothing, darling girl. No one who truly knows your father would ever believe he would sell an inch of this land without telling you, and I promise we will find who is spreading these lies and make them regret it." Later that night, after Lily had cried herself to sleep and Alex had driven away with excuses about early meetings, I sat alone in my study with the newspaper spread beneath the green banker's lamp. I ran my finger down the column of figures until I reached the appraised value of the timber on the North 40, a number I had never shared with Alex, a number Sophia had calculated for me last spring when we discussed the state taxes after a bad frost. My hand did not shake anymore. It was steady as I opened my phone, scrolled to a contact I had not called in 20 years, and pressed the call button before I could talk myself out of it. Mark picked up on the second ring, voice gravelly from too many cigarettes and too many nights without sleep. "Jonathan Caldwell," he said, surprise and warmth mixed together. "I was beginning to think you forgot old soldiers." I told him I needed a favor, the kind that could not be discussed on an open line, and he answered without hesitation, "Whatever you need, brother. You know I owe you my life from that desert hellhole, so name the time and place." I named tomorrow morning before dawn, at the back booth of the diner no one uses anymore. I sat alone in the study, the only light coming from the green glass shade of my father's old banker's lamp, the one that has lit every crisis this family ever faced since 1943. On the table lay the newspaper with the poisoned headline, the anonymous envelope with the yellow highlighted lines, the photo of the orange survey flags fluttering along the property line, and my phone. The phone screen glowed with Lily's name and the single blue call button that could either end everything tonight or save everything tomorrow. I reached for it, my thumb hovering a quarter of an inch from the glass, trembling. One touch and Lily would answer, trusting, ready to believe anything I said. One sentence that Alex and Sophia were planning to steal the orchard would turn the wedding to ash, shatter her heart, and break her faith in everyone she loved into pieces. I could hear her voice cracking, see her running to Sophia for comfort, only to be told I had lost my mind, that old age had taken me, and grief had turned me cruel. Alex would hold her and whisper that I needed help, and Sophia would promise to handle everything exactly as they planned. Within days, Lily would be so confused and desperate she might sign anything they slid in front of her just to make the fighting stop. I realized that telling her now, crudely and abruptly, could hand them the victory they were after. My hand started to pull back, but then I pictured her face the morning Alex had tried to rush those signatures, the way her eyes had searched mine for reassurance, the way she had almost put ink on paper that would have erased her birthright. If I stayed silent and they found another way to trick her, if I waited too late, discovered the full depth of the betrayal, she would never forgive me for letting her walk blind into the trap. A father's job is to protect, even when the truth is a blade. I had to choose. Tell Lily everything and watch her world burn tonight, or swallow the fire, gather the evidence, and risk that they might succeed tomorrow. Both options were as difficult as choosing which child to save from a burning house. The grandfather clock in the hallway struck 2 o'clock, each chime slow and deliberate, counting down a life I had built. Outside, the peach trees whispered in the wind, their branches touching the moon. I thought of Sarah's voice the last time we spoke, weak but fierce. "Promise me you'll keep her safe, Jonathan, not just from strangers, but from the people who smile while they lie." I would give them enough rope to hang themselves, every inch measured and marked, because the only way to pull my daughter out of this pit without breaking her was to first know how deep the pit went and exactly who had dug it. The sun had barely cleared the treetops when I parked my old Ford behind the abandoned feed store on County Road 9, the place Mark and I had agreed on, because no one had used it since the new highway went in 15 years ago. Dust still floated in the shafts of early light as I walked toward the sagging office door, the same door I'd painted army green the summer Mark saved my life in a desert most people have forgotten, and now I was about to ask him to return the favor by stepping into a war that wore perfume and wedding smiles. I pushed the door open with my shoulder, the hinges groaning like an old man getting out of bed, and there he was. "Brother," he said into my shoulder, "you look like you haven't slept since Baghdad." I told him everything in one long breath what I needed. Every phone record Alex had made in the last 6 months, every bank transaction, every email, every late-night meeting, every woman who was not my daughter. And most of all, I needed to know exactly how deep Sophia Reynolds was buried in this betrayal. Mark listened without interrupting, the way men who have seen real evil learn to listen. And when I finished, he simply nodded once and said, "Consider it done. I'll have the first package to you within 48 hours. We shook on it, the same shake we had used when we promised each other we would make it home alive. And I felt the first small easing of the knot that had lived under my ribs since the night I heard Alex call my daughter a fool. I turned to leave, already tasting the fight ahead, already rehearsing the quiet, relentless steps I would take to protect what was mine. And that was when I reached for the office door, my hand closing around the warm brass knob, ready to step back into the morning light and begin the hunt in earnest. The door swung open, and there, standing on the cracked concrete step with the sun behind him like some golden boy angel, was Alex. For one heartbeat, the three of us stood frozen while the Georgia heat pressed down and the cicadas screamed in the pines. Then Alex tilted his head, the picture of polite concern, and said, "Mr. Caldwell, thank God I found you. Lily's been worried sick since those awful rumors started. She asked me to track you down." He lifted the folio slightly. "Actually, since I'm here, I wanted to talk to you man to man. I've been thinking Lily should have her own counsel, completely separate from family attorneys, just to protect her interests after we're married. I took the liberty of making an appointment with a top estate planner in Atlanta. All she has to do is sign the retainer letter and everything will be handled cleanly. No conflict, no confusion." He extended the folio toward me, the movement smooth, practiced, utterly unafraid. My pulse thundered in my ears so loudly I was certain he could hear it. Mark's hand brushed my shoulder from behind. A silent question, "Do you want me to handle this?" But I gave the tiniest shake of my head. Because in that moment, staring at Alex's confident smile, I understood something colder than any winter I had ever known. He had not come here by accident. He had followed me, or been told where I would be, and he had come to plant another hook in my daughter's future while pretending to protect it. I did not take the folio. I simply looked past him to the empty parking lot, to the dust his shoes had not disturbed because he had been waiting inside the tree line, watching, and then I looked back into his eyes and saw the flicker of triumph he could not quite hide. "Separate counsel," I repeated, voice low, tasting every syllable. "How thoughtful of you." He kept the smile nailed in place. "Only the best for Lily. You understand?" Oh, I understood perfectly. Behind me, Mark exhaled once, slow and dangerous, the sound a man makes when he realizes the enemy is already inside the wire. I stepped forward, forcing Alex to take one step back, and the morning light caught the sharp edge of the open door just as it began to swing shut again between us. The night after Mark's photograph arrived, I could not sleep, so I carried the printout down to the kitchen where the moonlight fell in silver bars across the old pine table. And I sat there for hours, studying the dark silhouette of the woman who had handed Alex our future as casually as passing the salt. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Sophia's recorded voice again, soft and amused, saying, "Leave Lily to me," and the words looped behind my eyelids like a poison I could not spit out. Just before dawn, my phone vibrated once, the way Mark and I had agreed for urgent updates, and when I opened the new encrypted message, there were 3 more photographs attached, each taken from a different angle in the same parking deck, each showing the same gloved hand extending the same thick envelope. Mark's note beneath them was short. "Enhance the reflection in the Audi window. Look at the left wrist." I zoomed until the pixels blurred, and there it was, unmistakable even in grainy shadow. The thin white scar that curved across Sophia's left wrist like a crescent moon, the scar she got the summer she and Sarah were 22 and tried to rescue a stray dog from barbed wire. Sarah had laughed about it for years, how Sophia bled all over her favorite yellow sundress and still insisted on carrying the dog to the vet herself. I had kissed that scar the day we asked her to be Lily's godmother. Now that same scar was proof she was selling us piece by piece. I must have made some sound because Lily appeared in the doorway still in her nightgown, hair tousled from sleep, eyes wide with worry. "Papa," she whispered, voice small. "Are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." I folded the photographs quickly and slid them under the newspaper, forcing a smile that felt like broken glass. "Just old man worries, sweetheart. Go back to bed." She padded across the cold floor anyway, slipped her arms around my neck from behind, and rested her cheek against my hair, the way she did when she was little and thunder scared her. "I heard you walking all night," she said. "Ever since those awful rumors started, you've been different. Please tell me what's wrong." I covered her hands with mine and felt the tremble I could not hide. "In time, darling," I managed. "In time, I'll tell you everything, but right now I need you to trust that I'm handling it." She kissed the top of my head, the same way Sarah used to, and whispered, "I do trust you, Papa. Always." Then she padded back upstairs, leaving me alone with the moonlight and the scar and the terrible knowledge that the person she trusted second only to me was the one sharpening the knife. Later that morning, while Lily showered and Alex lingered over coffee pretending to read the business section, my phone buzzed again. Mark this time. Voice call, no greeting. "Jonathan, listen carefully. The woman in the trench coat used a parking garage key card registered to Reynolds and Associates. Same card was used to access the building's secure file room at 2:14 a.m. the night before the handoff. Whoever she is, she has full partner-level clearance." I thanked Mark, ended the call, and stood at the kitchen window watching Alex butter toast for Lily with the devotion of a man who had never plotted anything darker than choosing wedding flowers. He caught me looking and lifted his cup in a cheerful salute. "Beautiful morning, sir," he called. Lily and I were thinking a picnic in the orchard later, maybe talk about moving the ceremony arch closer to the old peach tree your wife loved. I smiled back, the expression carved from ice. "Sounds perfect," I said. Inside my chest something ancient and furious stirred, because now I knew beyond doubt that Alex was not the mastermind, only the handsome, greedy front man, and the real architect of our ruin was the woman who had rocked Lily to sleep when she had nightmares, who had paid for her braces, who had cried with me at Sarah's grave. I spent the next day pretending to be the same quiet farmer who only worried about frost warnings and peach prices, while inside my head every heartbeat sounded like a countdown. I waited until Sophia came for Sunday lunch, and I watched her place her leather briefcase on the sideboard exactly where she always places it, the same spot she has used for 20 years without ever locking it because, she used to say, "This house is the only place I never have to be careful." While Lily set the table and Alex carved the roast, I slipped into the study with the folder Alex had tried to rush through, the one Sophia had declared perfectly standard. I opened it under the green banker's lamp and turned to page 9, the page where I had deliberately typed the orchard's total acreage as 183 instead of the correct 143, a mistake so obvious any competent attorney would catch it instantly. There, in Sophia's neat red pen, the number had been corrected to 143, initialed SR, dated the same morning she handed the folder back with her calm smile, and told Lily it was safe to sign. She had fixed it so the documents would sail through any later scrutiny, so that when the Resort Corporation's lawyers reviewed the sale package, they would find nothing to question, nothing to slow the closing once Lily's name was on the dotted line. I was staring at the red correction when my phone buzzed. It was a secure message from Mark, just a screenshot of an email that bounced back to Alex 3 nights ago. The email had the subject, "Final revision. Urgent." The body was very brief, requesting confirmation of the updated Addendum C with the revised acreage and appraisal and to forward it to the closing agent before Monday, emphasizing that time was critical. The recipient address subtly mimicked Sophia's real email address, differing only by the addition of ja. However, the IP address that Mark traced led straight to Sophia's corner office on Peachtree Street. I leaned back so hard my chair creaked. Someone, possibly Alex, had created a mirror email account that looked exactly like Sophia's firm, and someone, definitely Sophia, had answered from her real address because the reply chain showed her writing, "Received and approved. Proceeding." The timestamp was 2:47 a.m., long after her staff had gone home, long after decent people sleep. I stared at the red correction in the margin, then at the spoofed domain glowing on my screen, and felt the pieces click together with a sound almost loud enough to hear. Either Alex was clever enough to forge Sophia's digital signature, and she had never noticed, or, far more likely, Sophia herself was corresponding through both addresses, creating the illusion of arm's-length review, while steering every document exactly where she wanted it to go. I forwarded everything to Mark with a single line. "Find me the server logs. I need to know whose fingers were on the keyboard at 2:47 a.m. Then I closed the folder, smoothed my face into the harmless expression of a tired old man, and walked back to the dining room where the three of them waited, sunlight pouring through the windows like nothing could dim. Sophia looked up as I entered and smiled the same smile that had comforted me through funerals and bankruptcies. "Everything all right, Jonathan?" she asked, voice warm with concern. "You were gone a long time." I took my seat at the head of the table and unfolded my napkin across my lap. "Perfectly fine," I said, "just making sure the numbers add up." Alex laughed easily and reached for the wine. Lily beamed at both of them, radiant with the trust I was about to watch shatter. And under the table, where no one could see, my hands closed into fists so tight the nails left crescents in my palms, because now I held proof in black and white and red ink that the woman who had promised my dying wife she would protect our daughter was the same woman quietly correcting the math so the theft would be flawless. The email could still be explained away as clever framing by Alex. The corrected acreage could still be waved off as diligent lawyering. But both together, in the same week Sophia's scar appeared in Mark's photograph, formed a knot I could no longer pretend was accidental. Someone was pulling every string from the shadows, and for the first time the evidence pointed not around Sophia, but straight through the heart of the woman I'd called sister for 3 decades. Mark called me at 3 a.m, voice rough with cigarettes and the kind of exhaustion that comes from staring too long at ugly truths. He did not waste time on greetings. "Jonathan, listen close. Alex Harper is a greedy little bastard, but he is not the architect. He is the errand boy. Every dollar trail, every forged signature, every quiet phone call loops back to a single creditor who has been bleeding someone dry for 8 years. The creditor is a private gambling syndicate out of Biloxi that does not forgive markers. The debt is $2.4 million, compounded monthly, and the only asset large enough to clear it in one stroke is Sunset Orchard, valued at current resort rates. I closed my eyes and felt the night air turn to ice in my lungs. $2.4 million. The exact figure Sophia had once mentioned, almost laughing when she told me about a bad investment phase years ago, promising it was handled, promising she would never be reckless again. Mark kept talking, relentless. Alex's job is to deliver a married, compliant Lily who signs whatever is put in front of her. He gets a 7-figure finder's fee once title transfers. But the person who actually owes the money, the person who has been feeding him documents, schedules, revised wills, corrected acreage, all of it, is the same person who stands to lose everything if the debt is called tomorrow. The mastermind is not Alex, Jonathan. Alex is just the pretty face they hired to keep Lily calm while the real borrower sells her birthright to save her own skin. Mark's voice softened, the way it used to when he told a dying soldier the chopper was 2 minutes out. "I'm sorry, brother. I followed the money through 6 shell companies, but it dead ends at a trust established in 1998, the year Sarah got sick. Sole trustee, Sophia Reynolds. Beneficiary, in the event of default, the Biloxi Syndicate. She has been robbing Peter to pay Paul for years, and Peter just ran out of patience. I looked through the kitchen window at the dark hallway that led to the guest room where Sophia slept whenever she stayed over. The same room where she had rocked Lily through nightmares and promised Sarah on her deathbed that she would guard this family with her life. $2,400,000, and the only collateral left was the land my daughter had learned to walk on. Mark said quietly, "There's more, but you're not ready for it tonight. Just know the plan is already in motion. They need one final document signed within the next 10 days, or the syndicate starts with broken fingers. Hers first, then anyone she loves. Alex is the hammer. She is the one holding the nail." I managed to thank Mark, ended the call, and stood there until the first faint light of dawn touched the sky. Everything Mark said was true, but it was only half the truth, the surface of a much uglier betrayal. I wondered why Sophia specifically wanted to sell Sunset Orchard, the land Sarah and I had poured our lives into, and the place Sophia had sworn to protect. I realized that whatever bound Sophia's old debt to this specific piece of land was deeper than gambling losses, perhaps reaching back years or decades to promises made when Sarah was still breathing. Alex was just the hired hand. The real architect had been sitting at my Thanksgiving table for 30 years, had held my daughter, had cried by my wife's coffin. Whatever secret tied her to this orchard was ugly enough to make her willing to burn every bridge of love we had ever built. The half-truth Mark provided was devastating, but the whole truth, when it surfaced, would shatter what was left of my family. I stayed on the porch until the sky turned peach-colored, listening to the house wake up behind me. Sophia's gentle footsteps on the stairs, and Lily's sleepy laughter as Alex teased her about breakfast in bed. The attack came faster than frost in April. It began the very next morning, when Sophia arrived unannounced with a thick ivory envelope and the calm, sorrowful expression she used to wear whenever she delivered bad news about Sarah's test results. She laid the envelope on the breakfast table between the peach preserves and Lily's coffee cup, and she spoke in the gentle voice that had once convinced juries to free innocent men. "Darling, we have a problem," she said, placing her manicured fingers over Lily's trembling ones. "The rumors have reached the bank. They are threatening to call the orchard's operating loan early unless we prove immediate liquidity. I spent all night negotiating, and the only solution they will accept is a limited emergency power of attorney so I can move assets quickly and quietly. It is purely protective, sweetheart. Just until the wedding, when everything becomes joint anyway." Alex was already nodding before she finished, sliding a gold pen across the table like a surgeon offering a scalpel. "It's standard precaution, babe. Sophia worked miracles keeping the bank from panicking. One signature and the problem disappears." Lily looked at me, eyes wide, the same way she looked at me the day her pony died, and she wanted me to promise the world would stop hurting her. "Papa," she whispered, "is this really necessary?" I opened my mouth, but Sophia spoke first, soft and urgent. "Jonathan, you know I would never ask if there were another way. The loan covenant requires action by Friday, or they seize the equipment. I have buyers ready to advance funds against future harvest contracts, but they need Lily's authority on file today." Alex leaned in, voice velvet over steel. "Think of the workers, Mr. Caldwell. 40 families who depend on payday next week. One page, one notary, crisis over." They had rehearsed this. Every word, every comforting touch, every glance that said, "Trust us. We only want what is best." Sophia produced the document, thick, creamy paper, official seals already embossed. I saw the clause on page 3 before Lily could turn to it. Irrevocable durable power of attorney, granting Sophia Reynolds full authority to sell, transfer, or encumber any real property owned by Lily Grace Caldwell, effective immediately, lasting until expressly revoked in writing, witnessed by 2 notaries. In plain language, one signature would hand Sophia the keys to Sunset Orchard today. No waiting for wedding vows, no need for my consent, no court oversight. Lily's pen hovered. "Papa, they say it's only temporary. I reached for her wrist, gentle but firm. Temporary is a word people use right before they take everything forever, sweetheart. Alex's smile flickered. Sophia's eyes narrowed, just a fraction. Then came the master stroke. Sophia turned to Lily with tears suddenly shining, voice breaking the way it broke the night Sarah died. Lilith Grace, I have loved you since the moment you drew your first breath. I held you before your father did. If you cannot trust me now, after everything we have been through together, then I have failed the promise I made to your mother, and I will leave this house and never darken your door again. Lily's face crumpled. The pen lowered. Alex murmured, "It's okay, babe. Aunt Sophie is family." I felt the walls closing in, the air thickening until breathing hurt. Every second they pressed, the noose tightened. Sophia slid the document closer, tears still perfect on her cheeks. "Just here, darling. Initial page 4 and sign page 7. I already spoke to Judge Harris. He will notarize at lunchtime. By tonight, the bank is calm, the workers are paid, and no one loses their home." I stood so fast the chair crashed backward. "Lily, put the pen down." 3 faces turned to me, Alex furious, Sophia sorrowful, Lily terrified. I spoke very quietly. "You will not sign that paper today, or tomorrow, or any day until I have read every syllable with my own lawyer, and if either of you—" I looked from Alex to Sophia and let them see the winter in my eyes. "Push my daughter 1 inch further. I will burn this whole lie to the ground with both of you standing in the flames." Silence, thick and electric. Then Sophia smiled, small, sad, resigned, and closed the folder. "Of course, Jonathan. We only want what is best. Take all the time you need." But her eyes said the opposite. Her eyes said time was the one thing I did not have. Alex helped her gather the papers, his fingers touching her a little too intimately. They stepped out together, murmuring about rescheduling and promising to return tomorrow with simpler language. Lily stared at the empty doorway, the pen still in her hand, tears tracing paths down her cheeks. She whispered that she just wanted to help. I pulled her into my arms and felt her trembling. I said into her hair that she would help, but not by handing her future over to wolves in Sunday clothes. Outside, the car door closed, the engine started, and the gravel crunched away into silence. I looked at the clock. 4 days until the bank deadline and their next attempt. They had shown their final hand, bold and ruthless, and the weapon they chose was the only person my daughter couldn't refuse. The emergency power of attorney lay on the table like a loaded gun. I drove to the old meeting point at dawn, the same deserted warehouse where Mark and I had met weeks earlier, the place where Alex had once appeared like a golden ghost blocking my exit. No silver Audi waited. No handsome face smiled from the shadows, only the wind moving through the empty bays and the faint smell of diesel and damp concrete. I called Mark's name once, then again, but only silence answered. Then I saw it. A single white envelope taped to the metal support beam, my name written in Alex's neat, slanted hand. It was a letter from Alex, informing me that by the time I read it, he would be on a plane to a country with no extradition treaty. He stated that my lawyer had handled everything. The power of attorney was signed yesterday afternoon, and ownership would transfer next week. He told me not to look for him anymore and wished things could have been different. While I was walking the orchard rows, trying to decide how to tell Lily the truth without breaking her heart, while Sophia was supposedly at her office preparing for a deposition, Lily had signed the document that handed everything to the woman who had sworn to protect her. I sank to my knees on the cold concrete, the letter trembling in my hand, and felt the world tilt sideways. My phone rang, sharp and sudden. Mark's number. I answered with a voice that sounded like it belonged to someone else. "Jonathan," he said, breathless. "I'm at the courthouse. Sophia just filed the power of attorney. It's notarized, witnessed, and Lily's signature is on every page. The clerk says the resort corporation already wired the earnest money. Closing is set for Friday." I stared at the letter in my hand, at Alex's careful handwriting, and felt something inside me crack wide open. He ran, I whispered. He left a note saying Sophia handled everything. Mark's silence lasted a heartbeat too long. Then she flipped on him, he said finally. She must have realized you were closing in and decided to cut her losses. She took the orchard for herself, paid the syndicate, and left Alex holding the bag. Or Alex had planned it this way from the beginning, I thought, the possibility twisting like a knife. He had played the perfect fiancé, the perfect scapegoat, and now he was gone while Sophia sat in her corner office with the deed in her safe. I picked it up, folded it carefully, and slipped it into my pocket. Then I walked back to my truck, the taste of ash in my mouth, and drove home through the gray morning, knowing that the next time I saw Sophia, she would be smiling the same gentle smile she wore when she held Lily as a baby. I realized this time the smile would be Sophia's victory lap, because she had closed the deal and taken everything while I watched helplessly. However, the message Alex left raised a dark question. Did Sophia betray Alex to save herself? Or did Alex orchestrate the whole escape to make Sophia look like the sole villain? The letter did not say. It made only one thing crystal clear. Your lawyer handled everything. And that was the moment I understood the game had changed again. I carried the forged will upstairs. The document looked flawless at first glance. Crisp, official, dated only 3 weeks earlier, bearing what appeared to be Lily's flowing signature in the same midnight blue ink she has used since high school. Witnessed by Sophia Reynolds and a notary whose raised seal caught the light like a smug little wink. But the longer I stared, the more the details crawled out of the shadows to accuse the woman I had once loved like blood. I spread my own true will beside it, the one Lily and I signed together the day she turned 30, and the differences rose up like ghosts. The paper weight wrong, the slant of Lily's Y reversed, the notary ID number belonging to a woman who retired to Florida last year, every discrepancy small enough to escape a grieving daughter's eye, yet screaming to anyone who had held the real document 100 times. Every memory of Sophia, from her holding infant Lily at the christening font, reading her bedtime stories, to handing me a check during tough times and saying, "Family takes care of family," turned to rot in my mouth. Downstairs, the grandfather clock struck 3, each chime like a hammer against my heart. I rocked slowly, clutching the forged pages, feeling the darkness rise. I imagined Lily waking up tomorrow to learn her godmother had written her out of existence. I imagined the bulldozers arriving where the peach trees hung heavy with fruit, and Sophia's calm, sorrowful smile as she explained it was all for Lily's benefit. Then Lily's voice drifted through the locked door, small and sleepy and terrified. "Papa, I heard something fall. Are you all right?" I wiped my face on my sleeve, cleared the gravel from my throat, and opened the door. She stood in the hallway in her old college t-shirt, hair tousled, eyes wide with the moonlight, and the sight of her, alive and trusting, nearly broke me all over again. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I lied, stepping into the hall and pulling the door almost shut behind me so the lamp's glow would not reveal the papers on the desk. "Just dropped a book. Go back to bed." She searched my face the way only daughters can. "You've been crying. Old men cry sometimes," I said, managing half a smile. "Nothing for you to worry about." She hugged me then, arms fierce around my waist, cheek pressed to my chest the way she did when she was 5 and afraid of thunder. "I love you, Papa. Whatever it is, we'll fix it together." I held her so tightly I felt her heartbeat against my ribs, and in that moment the darkness retreated just enough for a single clear thought to surface. Sophia had not won yet. I kissed the top of Lily's head and whispered, "I love you more than all the peaches in Georgia, baby girl. Now go sleep. Tomorrow is a new day." She padded back to her room, and I waited until her door clicked shut before I returned to the study, locked the door again, and spread both wills side by side beneath the merciless light. The forged document was brilliant, almost perfect, but arrogance had made Sophia careless, and carelessness was a crack I could pry wide open. I took photographs of every page, every discrepancy, every forged flourish, then sealed the original in a new evidence envelope and slid it into the fireproof box I keep for crop insurance records. Then I picked up the phone and dialed Mark, not caring that the clock read 3:27 a.m. He answered on the second ring, voice thick with sleep but instantly alert. "Tell me," he said. "It's worse than we thought," I answered, my voice steady now, cold as winter iron. Sophia didn't just use the power of attorney. She forged an entirely new will. Lily signed it thinking she was protecting me. Sophia is now the sole heir. Silence stretched across the line, heavy and stunned. Then Mark exhaled a single furious word. "Jesus, forget Alex," I said. He was the distraction. Sophia is the target now. Every resource, every hour, every favor you've got left, aim it at her. Bank records, phone logs, the gambling syndicate, all of it. I want her in handcuffs before she can't smile her way out of. Mark's voice turned grim and satisfied. "Consider the hunt officially redirected, brother. She won't see sunrise as a free woman." I hung up and looked at the forged will one last time, at Lily's stolen name glowing under the lamp like an accusation. Dawn had barely broken when I walked out to the back porch with coffee gone cold in my hand and dialed Mark before the birds finished their first chorus. He answered on the first ring, voice already sharp with the knowledge that nothing good comes from a call at this hour. "Change of plans," I said without greeting. "Stop chasing Alex. He is gone, and he is no longer the prize. Every man you have, every favor you can pull, every camera and wire and bank trace, aim it at Sophia Reynolds. I want her gambling debt transactions, every wire, every cashier's check, every late-night deposit, especially anything that lands in the next 48 hours. The wedding press conference is Saturday. That is when we end her. You sure you want to do this in front of 300 guests and every reporter within 2 states? I want her to feel the floor drop out from under her while she is wearing the same smile she wore at Sarah's funeral," I answered. "I want Lily to see the truth with her own eyes, not hear it from me in the dark. And I want Sophia to know, in the moment the handcuffs close, exactly who brought them." Then he said, "There is one problem. The syndicate pays debts in cash or cashier's checks drawn on untraceable Cayman accounts. We have the trail up to the courier, but the final handoff is always physical. Without a photograph or video of Sophia actually taking the money, the U.S. attorney will hesitate. Forgery and fraud are strong, but the gambling payoff is the motive that makes it all airtight." I closed my eyes and felt the plan click into place like a round sliding into the chamber. "She will take the money," I said. "She has to. The closing is Friday. The syndicate wants their pound of flesh before the title changes hands. They will send a courier, probably tomorrow, maybe the next day, and Sophia will accept it personally because she cannot risk a wire trail now." Mark exhaled slowly. "So we wait for the delivery and catch her red-handed." "Yes," I said, "but the courier will come here, to the house, because Sophia believes she is still welcome, still family, still safe, and the only person home tomorrow afternoon will be Lily." Mark finally spoke, soft and careful. "You are going to let your daughter be the one who hands Sophia the envelope?" "No," I answered, tasting iron where I had bitten my tongue. "I'm going to let Sophia hang herself with the rope Lily innocently offers. The courier will ask for Mrs. Reynolds. Lily will accept the package because she always accepts packages for her godmother. She will carry it inside, curious, maybe even excited, because Sophia has been helping with wedding surprises. And when Sophia tears it open, thinking she is alone, I did not need to finish." Mark understood. The final piece, the undeniable proof of blood money changing hands, would arrive at the exact moment and into the exact hands that would wound Sophia the deepest. "You're playing a dangerous game, Jonathan," he warned. "I know," I said, "but it is the only one she left me." We talked for another 20 minutes, arranging the cameras in the foyer chandelier, the study, and the kitchen window, all feeding back to Mark's truck parked down the road. By the time I hung up, the sun was fully up, gilding the orchard, and the plan was set. Everything now hinged on a single delivery whose contents only the organization and Sophia knew, arriving at the exact moment Lily was home alone. This would place the undeniable evidence in the hands of the one person I never wanted to hurt again. I stood on the porch until my coffee turned to ice, staring at the long driveway where the courier would appear. I knew the package was coming. Mark had confirmed the payment was scheduled within 72 hours. I knew Sophia would be here tomorrow under the pretense of finalizing flower arrangements, and Lily would receive the envelope with a smile. What I didn't know was whether my daughter's heart could survive being the one to open Pandora's box. But fate was sealed. The perfect trap was ready. The only piece missing was the money itself, and it was on its way, being delivered to the woman who had once promised to protect my child with her life. The courier arrived at 4:30 in the afternoon, ordinary-looking but suspicious. Lily answered, barefoot, humming along to the radio while arranging peonies. She signed for it without reading the name, thanked him, and carried the thick ivory envelope inside, calling back that it was probably the final print from the stationer. I watched from the barn threshold, my heart pounding, knowing that Mark's cameras were recording from 3 angles, and law enforcement was waiting. Lily placed the envelope on the kitchen island, next to the flowers, curious because it was addressed to Mrs. Sophia Reynolds at our address, with a small, expensive gift card hanging on a crimson ribbon that read, "For services rendered." She hesitated only for a moment, then pulled out a single bank check made payable to Sophia Reynolds for $2,400,000. The memo line under the amount read, "Gambling debt settlement. Final." The sound she made was not a scream or a sob, but a raw gasp torn straight from her chest, making me run forward. She knelt among the scattered peonies, the check trembling in her hand, her face white. When I reached her, she looked up at me with eyes that had aged 10 years in 10 seconds and whispered, "Papa, it's from the people Aunt Sophie owes. It says the orchard was the payment." I knelt and folded her into my arms while she shook so hard the check fluttered like a trapped bird. Behind us, tires crunched on gravel. Sophia arriving early for wedding errands, stepping out of her silver Mercedes in pale linen and pearls, smiling that same calm smile until she saw us through the screen door and the color drained from her face. Mark's team moved in before she reached the porch steps, 3 unmarked cars blocking the drive, badges flashing, cuffs ready. Sophia did not run. She simply stopped, looked at Lily on the floor, clutching the proof of 30 years of lies, and for the first time since I had known her, the mask slipped completely. Lily stood up slowly, walked to the door, and held the check out between 2 fingers as though it burned. "This is yours, isn't it?" she asked, voice steady now, terrible in its steadiness. Sophia opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. "Lilith, darling, let me explain." "No," Lily said, and the single word cracked like a judge's gavel. "Trust must be granted, not presumed. You taught me that when I was 7. I just never thought I would have to use it on you." The officers took Sophia's arms. She did not resist. She only looked at me over their shoulders and whispered, "I'm sorry, Jonathan." But the apology died in the air between us like a lie that had finally run out of breath. Alex was arrested 3 days later in the Caymans, dragged off a yacht in board shorts and sunglasses, still clutching a drink with an umbrella in it. The forged will, the power of attorney, the leaked files, the midnight emails, every piece fell into place once the money trail was exposed. Sophia was disbarred within the week, indicted the next, and the judge denied bail because the prosecutor argued, quite correctly, that she had already proven herself a master at disappearing assets. The wedding, of course, never happened. One night in early autumn, when the air smelled of wood smoke and the first turning leaves, I found her sitting on the porch swing where Sarah used to wait for me after long harvests. She had the deed in her lap, now solely in her name, and a small smile that carried both sorrow and steel. "I enrolled in the agricultural management program at the university," she said without looking up. and I fired the old foreman who was too cozy with the resort scouts. From now on, every decision about this land comes through me. She leaned her head on my shoulder and spoke softly into the sunset. Trust must be granted, not presumed, Papa. I will never forget that lesson. The sky burned gold and rose over the orchard that had almost been lost, and for the first time in months I felt Sarah's presence settle around us like warm arms. Lily took my hand, squeezed once, and together we watched the sun sink behind the trees our ancestors planted, the same trees that would still be here long after the trials and the tears and the betrayals had faded into memory. Sophia would spend years in prison. Alex would stand trial in federal court. But Sunset Orchard belonged to Lily now, wholly and irrevocably, and the woman walking its rows each morning with a notebook and a fierce new light in her eyes was no longer the girl who had almost signed her future away. She was the owner, the guardian, the one who had learned that love without truth is only another word for danger, and that healing begins the moment you stop begging the wound to close and start stitching it yourself. We sat in the swing until the stars came out, father and daughter, scarred but unbroken, while the peach trees whispered their ancient promise that some things, once almost destroyed, can still bear fruit sweeter than any that came before. And under that vast Georgia sky, with the scent of ripe peaches drifting on the evening breeze, Lily finally smiled, a real one, peaceful and certain, and I knew we had survived. The pain had been real. The strength to stand up anyway had been our choice. Come here, darling. Sit with me just a little longer. I just poured my heart out to you for 15 nights straight, and now that the story is told, the house feels quiet again, like the orchard after harvest. I need to know, did it reach you? Did you feel Lily's trembling hands on that check? Did you feel my chest crack open when I found the forged will? Did any moment make you cry or hold your breath or whisper, "I've been through something like that too"? Tell me in the comments. Tell me your city, your name, the piece that hurt you the most, or the moment you felt hope again. I read every single one, every night alone with my coffee, just like you watch alone with yours. Your stories are the reason I keep telling mine. If this story touched you, if it kept you company in the dark, if it reminded you that you are not alone when family hurts the deepest, then please leave a heart, a super thanks, a $4.99, or $100. Whatever your heart says is right. Every dollar keeps the lamp burning in this old Jonathan study so I can bring you the next true story of mothers, daughters, betrayals, and the quiet, fierce justice that finally comes. Look on your screen right now. 2 new real-life stories are waiting for you, women just like you, who thought love was safe and discovered it wore the sweetest smile of all. Watch them, cry with them, heal with them. And don't forget to subscribe, my dear friend, because there are hundreds more stories on the channel, and I save the most powerful ones for us, the ones who stay until the end. Thank you for trusting me with your night. Thank you for every comment that says, "I've been through that too." You are my family now. I will see you in the comments, and I will see you in the next story. With all my love and respect, Jonathan.